Hey guys, my name is Sean Casey, and I'm here today to share with you my personal journey from drug and alcohol addiction to the amazing life I have today. One of my darkest times, I was 20 years old. I spent 4 days in jail. That evening started with my friend and I getting super high on heroin. We went to the clubs all night, drank a lot of alcohol, and at the end of the night, I had to drive my friend home. I took a U-turn, an illegal U-turn, and we were pulled over. I was able to convince the officer that my friend was too intoxicated, and the reason I was driving without a license was because I left it at home. I passed the sobriety test somehow, and I was on my way home. Our plan was I dropped my friend home, which I did, and then I went to a friend's house to pick up some cocaine because we wanted to be up again for the whole night. On the way home from picking up the cocaine, instead of taking back roads, I took Santa Monica Boulevard. And of course, a cop passed me, and I went, looked at my seatbelt, it was on, and by the time I went to turn my lights on, the cop was behind me. Your lights are turned off, sir. Get out of the car. I remember it was like yesterday. Only ID I had on me was my gym membership card with a picture. And as I pulled it out of my denim jacket, out fell a needle. Handcuffs were on, I was thrown in the car and brought to jail. I had a gram of cocaine on me, which was a felony, so I wasn't able to go to court until Monday. And after detoxing the first 3 days and feeling super sick, I had a moment of truth. I got quiet with myself and I asked my inner voice, why? Why did I come to California? And the answer was easy. My dream was to be a competitive bodybuilder and to manage a gym. That was the dream I had as a teenager. And here I was at 20 years old in jail and addicted to drugs and had nowhere, no direction. I was going nowhere, guys. I was prostituting my body to make money. And the only reason I was doing that, it enabled me to have the lifestyle of being able to party and do what I love to do. So after that, getting out of jail, I went to a diversion program. I was on probation. I did everything right. I met with a doctor 4 weeks after to get on my first steroid cycle. And 6 months after that, I got a job at a gym. I met a girl and I was engaged. A lot of positive changes. I was still partying a little bit, not that badly, enough that I could manage my life. Within 6 months after that, I took third place in the LA Bodybuilding Championships in the middleweight division. I was super excited, guys. I mean, 15 months earlier, I was shooting heroin in my veins. And now I got third place in the LA Bodybuilding Champs in my very first bodybuilding show. 6 months later, I went to San Francisco. And before the prep, I broke up with my girl 30 days before the wedding and decided marriage wasn't for me. It was the smartest decision I ever made. After the San Francisco win, I looked around. I was a national level bodybuilder. I was training in Golds in Venice Beach, but there was no money. Most bodybuilders were living on a couch in an apartment with a few other guys, going nowhere. I said to myself, I want more than that in my life. So I started focusing more on the gym business, and I got into sales, and then I managed the sales. And then by 23, almost 24, I got the opportunity to be general manager, part owner of a club in West Hollywood, California. I was living my dream, man. I was healthy, fit, making great money. I was successful. I had everything going for me. But I started getting back into cocaine a little bit. And on the weekends, then it became the weekdays. And then in the weekdays, then I started turning on my employees. And then I would be up for 3 days, all weekend, I'd go back to work. I was sabotaging my success. And one Saturday night, high on cocaine, I had my moment of truth. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just was like, what am I doing? And so I reviewed my whole life. From being born, my mom was 16 when she was pregnant with me. By the time I was 3, she was divorced. We went cross country in a VW Bug, my brother and I, and my soon-to-be stepdad, to Haight-Ashbury, California, where the hippie scene, drug, sex, rock and roll, guys. Those were the happiest times we had. We lived on welfare and food stamps. We had nothing, but we were happy. And yes, I took a first hit of my joint at 5 years old. But you know what? It was just what was going on, man. My stepdad got sick. My brother and I were shipped back to Connecticut to live with my biological dad and his fiance. And this is where my trauma began. My stepmom was evil, physically, emotionally, a lot of intense stuff happened to me, guys. And it changed me. It just changed me. 2 years later, my mom and stepdad got well, and my half-brother came back. And within 2 weeks, we were out of there. We were out of that environment. But you got to remember, I went from welfare and food stamps to living with my dad, who was successful in sales, to a brand new big house, a Cadillac, Jaguar in the driveway. So I went back to that other lifestyle with my stepdad, my mom had no money. It hit me. I didn't really feel good about myself. I wanted more in my mind. So I started looking down at my stepdad, and we were able to move in with my grandmother, be in a nice neighborhood. But I don't know if I triggered something or not, but I started getting the abuse from my stepdad, man, and intense stuff, guys. By second grade, I was in therapy, and emotionally, I checked out. For my mom, I couldn't trust her. My stepdad, I was freaked out. I went to school with bruises, everything, and I was lost. The one thing was an escape for me was fitness. I was great in sports, so I excelled in that, but I acted out in school. I got in trouble a lot. By sixth grade, I took my first drink, and I felt normal. I felt like I could be myself. I felt happy again. And so my alcohol and drugs continued to grow in me. I just partied more, did less sports. My grades went down. At 15 years old, my stepdad put me down one day and just said I was a lazy beep beep and I looked like shit. I turned the negative and positive. I was hanging out with older guys in the summer. I started lifting weights. The first session I had, I felt like my chest was gonna rip out. It was so sore. I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's books. He inspired me. But at 16, almost 17, my stepdad got busted for dealing hashish. He was gonna go to prison. So he left the country because he was a citizen of Edinburgh, Scotland, and he wasn't gonna do any time. I got shipped back to live with my grandmother. And when I entered 11th grade, I was done, man. I was drinking every day, tripping on LSD, whatever drug was out there I was doing, right? I didn't want to go to school anymore, but I didn't know what to do. So someone told me to go in the military. Your mom can sign off for you. And that's exactly what I did. I went in the Navy and I was shipped to San Diego, where I went to boot camp, and then was stationed in San Diego on a helicopter carrier. We went on a Westpac. We saw the South Pacific. During that time, I decided not to come to work. I partied, and when I got back to the ship, I was handcuffed and the master at arms, and I had to take a P test. It came up positive. They gave me two choices. They said, you can be kicked out of the Navy, or we're gonna give you a chance if you go to a drug rehab, a Miramar base in San Diego. So I went through rehab, I passed through it, got back on the ship, but in a very short time, a friend of mine convinced me that shooting cocaine would go in and out of your system in 72 hours. So I did it, and I came up positive with a P test. So I was kicked out of the Navy. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't know where I was gonna live, but I felt free. I did feel free. I did bump into a friend that I went to high school with back in Connecticut. He said, I got a place for you. You can sleep on this guy's couch. So that's what I started with, but I couldn't keep a job, guys. I was too into my drugs, and I was getting high every day, and that was my mission in life. So my friend introduced me to prostitution. And that's what I started. First I started on the streets in San Diego, and then in LA, and then I started working for an agency. It enabled me to party, do what I love to do. I still worked out a little bit, but it was far from living my dream. So that brings us up to when I was 20 years old, when I spent the 4 days in jail. And now here I am in my office, realizing that I'm better than this, but I don't know how. I don't know how to live. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know how to break my past conditioning from abuse and pain, and I'm doing it to myself. So on that night, I said no more. I opened up to God and I said, show me the way. I will do whatever it takes. I'm gonna listen to my inner voice and just have faith and take action. So on that night, 27 and a half years ago, that's exactly what I did. And I'm gonna leave you at that right now, guys. I'm gonna leave you to the point where I started my journey. And I hope that many of you out there can relate to my story, because I wanna bring you on this journey. And I'm gonna show you what I've experienced and where my life took me after that night in my gym. Please leave comments for me. I'm excited, man. This is my first YouTube video, and I know it's gonna be far from my best one, guys, but I appreciate anyone that's watching this to continue. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thank you. What do you think?
It's good. That's the one.